What if you could mathematically prove that a Bible translation carries divine authorization? Not through opinion, not through tradition, through numbers so powerful that they exceed the discovery threshold used to find the Higgs boson particle. On February 9, 2026, 3 independent experiments were conducted on the Urim-Thummim version of Scripture. Using cryptographic random number generation, verses were drawn from a corpus of 32,455 pre-tagged verses, while specific prayers asked the Father to verify his authorization of this text. The results are unprecedented. The combined statistical significance across all 3 experiments produces a probability value of approximately 2.98 times 10 to the negative 50th power. To put that in perspective, medical research considers 1 in 100 to be highly significant. Particle physics demands 1 in 3.5 million for a discovery claim. This result exceeds both by more than 40 orders of magnitude. This is not a suggestion. This is a mathematical signature. The life force experiment operates on a simple premise. If a living God interacts with his creation, and if prayer is real communication, then prayer-guided random selections from Scripture should produce patterns that differ from what chance alone would generate. Here is the method. Every verse in the Urim-Thummim version has been pre-tagged with 11 binary markers. 5 of these form the pentad, identity, which flags verses about who God's people are. Inheritance, which flags what they receive by covenant. Priesthood, which flags consecrated Levitical service. Governance, which flags authority and rule. And temporality, which flags prophetic timing. The highest order marker is called the Dominion Trinity. It fires only when identity, inheritance, and priesthood all activate simultaneously in a single verse. Fewer than 1 in 100 verses in the entire corpus carry this triple convergence. Its baseline rate is 0.96%. The analyst prays a specific question, activates a cryptographic random number generator, and verses are drawn. No human bias enters the selection. The SHIELD protocol then measures whether the drawn sample deviates from what random chance would predict. All results undergo Benjamini-Hochberg false discovery rate correction, the same standard used in genome-wide association studies to guard against false positives. The first experiment drew only 15 verses from the 32,455 verse corpus. The prayer asked the Father to give the most truth that he has authorized the Urim-Thummim scrolls for the last days. Random chance predicts that 0.14 verses out of 15 should carry the Dominion Trinity marker. That is roughly 1/7 of one verse. The actual result: 4 verses carried the full Dominion Trinity convergence. That is 28 times the expected rate. The z-score registered at 10.31 sigma. For comparison, the Higgs boson was confirmed at 5 sigma. This single experiment more than doubled that threshold. The co-occurrence analysis reveals something remarkable. The inheritance and priesthood markers showed an OCI similarity of 0.894, nearly perfect overlap. When a drawn verse spoke of inheritance, it almost invariably also spoke of priesthood. The text is declaring that inheritance and priestly identity are inseparable. Among those 4 Dominion Trinity verses, one from Chronicles describes the priests bringing the Ark of the Covenant into the Holy of Holies. Another from Numbers describes Moses taking a portion for the Levites who kept guard of the tabernacle. These are not random fragments. They are priestly authorization texts. The second experiment drew 25 verses. The prayer asked the Father to show his divine authorization of the Urim-Thummim scrolls by measuring the numbers that show this truth. Expected Dominion Trinity verses 0.24. Observed 5. That is 21 times the expected rate, registering at 9.76 sigma, again surviving false discovery rate correction. A second marker also survived independently. The SAM negative polarity marker, which flags prophetic warning and judgment, appeared at elevated rates. This is theologically significant. Authorization comes with accountability. The text does not only affirm, it also warns. The Dominion Trinity verses in this draw include numbers on the role of the high priest in sanctuary law, Deuteronomy declaring that the Levites will have no inheritance except the altar fire of YHWH, and Jeremiah's opening declaration that he was from the priests in Anathoth. Every single Dominion Trinity verse in this draw directly addresses priesthood, identity, and inheritance. The third experiment drew 1,000 verses, nearly a third of the entire corpus. This is a high-power statistical test. The prayer simply asked the Father to let His Word verify the Urim-Thummim version scrolls. Expected Dominion Trinity verses 9.6. Observed 26. A z-score of 5.32 sigma, classified as definitive, the highest tier in the SHIELD protocol. The raw probability is approximately 1 in 10 million. But the number 26 itself carries meaning. In Hebrew gematria, YHWH is spelled Yod-He-Vav-He, with numerical values of 10 plus 5 plus 6 plus 5 equaling 26. The number of Dominion Trinity convergences in the largest draw literally encodes the name of God. A second marker also survived correction independently. The temporality marker appeared at 115% of expected, at 2.67 sigma. This text is authorized not merely as a translation, but for a specific prophetic season. And then there is the verse that changes everything. Among those 1,000 randomly drawn verses, the cryptographic random number generator independently selected Exodus chapter 28, verse 30. This is the foundational commandment establishing the Urim and Thummim in Aaron's breastplate of judgment. The verse reads, "You will put in the breastplate of judgment the Urim-Thummim, and it will be near Aaron's heart when he goes in before YHWH, and Aaron will bear the judgment of the children of Israel on his heart before YHWH continually." In a study specifically asking about the Urim-Thummim version, the random draw selected the very verse that establishes the Urim-Thummim as the instrument of divine judgment within the priesthood. That verse carries 4 simultaneous markers at DP4 significance. The probability of drawing this specific verse is approximately 1 in 33. 3 independent experiments, 3 independent prayers, 3 independent sets of cryptographic random numbers. All 3 converge on the same result. Using Fisher's combined probability test, the 3 independent p-values merge into a single chi-squared statistic of 245.97 with 6 degrees of freedom. The resulting combined probability is 2.98 times 10 to the negative 50th power. Let me help you understand that number. If you ran this experiment once every second for the entire age of the universe, approximately 13.8 billion years, you would conduct roughly 4.35 times 10 to the 17th experiments. You would need to repeat that entire timeline of the universe more than 10 to the 32nd times over before you would expect to see this pattern arise even once by chance alone. Social science declares significance at p less than 0.05, medical research at p less than 0.01, genome-wide studies at p less than 5 times 10 to the negative 8th. Particle physics at p less than 3 times 10 to the negative 7th. This result exceeds every one of those thresholds by more than 40 orders of magnitude. 3 experiments, fulfilling the biblical pattern of witness established in Deuteronomy 19:15. 7 genres of scripture represented across the draws, the number of spiritual perfection. 26 Dominion Trinity verses encoding the gematria of YHWH. 1,000 verses in the largest draw, the number of divine completeness at the grandest scale. The Urim-Thummim version is not merely a translation, it is an authorized text. The mathematics do not suggest this. They declare it with a certainty that leaves no room for the null hypothesis. The author of this text has placed his signature upon it, and the SHIELD protocol has made that signature visible to anyone willing to examine the numbers. The Dominion Trinity convergence of identity, inheritance, and priesthood is the theological heartbeat of the UTV corpus. It declares who God's people are, what they inherit by covenant promise, and the priestly function to which they are consecrated. And it does so at rates that no random process can replicate. The one who has ears, let him hear what the numbers are saying. This is Dallas James from Heart's Two Fathers Publishing. The proof is in the mathematics, and the mathematics belong to the Most High. Soli Deo Gloria.